The Bill Clark Show, presented by Dr. Pepper. And now, Coach Bill Clark.
Welcome in. It's the Coach Bill Clark Show, presented by Buffalo Rock and Dr. Pepper with Coach Bill Clark. I'm Pat Smith, along with Landrum Roberts and Molly Robinson. Coach, we're going to kind of go down memory lane today. So much going on in regards to the transformation of college football and what's going on. I'd like to kind of dive into the transformation of Coach Bill Clark, going from high school to Jacksonville State to UAB, bringing the program back. And I want to start from Jacksonville State, your alma mater.
Right.
You're a successful coach there. When did the conversations, or how did you find out that UAB potentially was interested in your services?
Yeah, this, as I always say, this will be in the movie someday, so we'll give the listeners a little some tidbits here to kind of take them down. But it's really a great story. So UAB was a program that I had known about as obviously been a high school coach in the state, had a few players sign with UAB. And really, as those players signed, I was always really surprised, obviously loving Birmingham, being from the area, thinking that it could be great, but seeing the facilities. So as I would have players like Zach Woodfin, who signed when I was at Prattville, and he loved it, loved UAB, loved the coaches. There was big wins there. You know, we knew about them. What we didn't understand really was why their facilities were so bad. So fast forward, UAB job has got some times in there where it's open. I'm at South Alabama, really was interested in the job, didn't get an interview, end up at the Jack State, really just comes along perfectly. I'm at South. After the 2012 season, Jack Crow is stepping down. You know, and I always tell the story. We're playing Hawaii. We're at South. We had picked to play Hawaii the last game of the year because we're the fastest anybody's ever gone to FBS football, but we're not eligible for a bowl game. So we picked Hawaii to kind of point to at the end of the year. So Friday, we'd been there a few days. It's that afternoon. My wife and I are coming back from just a little ride around the island, in fact, and we're above, and here's Pearl Harbor below, and I'd had no service. All of a sudden, I got 50 messages. Jack State's open. As I walk into the team room, we're meeting the players. They'd been off. We'd had a little bit of time off. Every coach in there is like, you've heard about Jack State coming open. Now, it wasn't a given, but I get the Jack State job. I'm home. I'm happy. We end up having a really good year, get in the playoffs, and the UAB job comes open. In fact, I'm at Stacy Luker at Sweetwater. We've got a player committed. I walk in the office, and he shows me Football Scoop. And, you always wonder, does everybody know Football Scoop? Football Scoop is the
inside baseball for college
correct,
football coaching.
There you go. It's just rumor mill for football coaches, and sometimes very accurate, sometimes not super accurate.
People will post jobs on there.
100%.
Strength coach or nutrition, whatever.
Well, and it's like a lot of rumors. There are a lot of truths in there, or maybe it's an idea, but a lot of times, especially now, people put out things they want to get out there. Stacy Luker says, "Oh, you're the new coach at UAB." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Now, we had some UAB players trying to transfer to us to Jacksonville State. Now, we were FCS. Now, we were a good FCS team. So obviously there had been some rumors through the years. You know, you're a UAB grad, Landrum, from Birmingham, from this area. So we've heard some rumors about UAB, but obviously didn't believe them, but knew it just wasn't on great footing. They had really been, not winning. So I just laughed about it. A few weeks later, I'm at the coaching convention. Once again, Football Scoop. I wake up the morning, I get a phone call. Said, "I hear you're going to UAB." Football Scoop has now said that I have accepted the job. Not spoke to them, none of that.
So you haven't spoken to them yet, but they're reporting.
Yes, okay. Zero. And I've got the president of of Jack State, and one of the trustees calling me.
Like going, what's going on here, Coach?
What's going on? So they've got phones too. So they're starting to get these rumors already, and I have not spoken to UAB at this point. So here we go. So I get a call from the head of the search committee named Bill Carr. So these UAB fans would know that name, Bill Carr. We'll discuss him later. But, Coach, would you at least talk to UAB? Now, remember, I'm in state retirement. UAB's in state retirement. I'm an FCS coach. UAB's an FBS coach. So I say no. I say, okay, I will meet with these guys. I let my guys at Jack State know, okay, I'm at least willing to meet and talk. Bracken Mack and Isaiah Reese and Shannon Ely, who's assistant AD at the time, we meet in Atlanta. I'm offered the job of UAB and decide, okay, FBS in the state, I've turned around places before, let's go do this thing.
Okay. You knew the inherent challenges that were there.
To a degree, yes.
And everybody, whether you're a coach, whatever, ultimately starts with a vision.
Yep.
So when you knew what you were up against, could you go ahead and picture it in your mind of what you thought that program would become?
That's a great question. I think for me it was, okay, we're in Birmingham. I'm from here. I know everybody. I know every coach in the state. And that was when it was really, we're talking about high school recruiting, right? I've just put a new staff together at Jacksonville State, so I feel pretty secure I'm going to be able to pull my staff that I've just put together, who are a lot of Alabama guys, state of Alabama guys. So I feel good about that. I've played 3 state championship games at Legion Field. So yes, to that point, I felt like I had a vision. Now, here was the thing. I said, well, I've been in their facilities. Well, don't worry about the facilities. You're going to be able to build a new locker room. Little did I know that I think the locker room had been condemned, and they didn't have a choice. But I did know I had a new locker room to build, so I wasn't as worried about the facilities as I would have been. Obviously, I knew 5 wins in 3 years or whatever it was. And one of the things that I talk to people about as I come in that 1st of January is the meeting of Jack State and the meeting at UAB, the difference in those players. The guys at Jack State, as I come into this first meeting, I just want to make sure everybody was there. Somebody's not leaving, but people didn't leave like they do now, So
yeah.
I go into that first meeting at Jack State versus the first meeting at UAB. I can't even get eye contact with these players at UAB. They've been told they're terrible. They've been, their facilities are horrible. To my son's point, the uniforms are horrible. Dad, I said, I know it. Yeah, I'm leaving Jack State. You're at home, you're in town with your granddad. He was playing at Piedmont. I said, I'm going to let you stay on, Dad. I said, I know it's bad. He said, no, they got the worst uniforms in America.
What was that? Me and Patter, we're both uniform junkies. What did the uniform look like when you took over?
It was UAB written like about that big.
Okay.
This is a great story. So one of our first meetings, so Brian Mackin was AD, Shannon Ely, so I meet the equipment young lady who had been working with basketball, the football equipment guy. Football's an equipment sport. I said, we're changing uniforms. I was with the first Nike athletic department in the nation. I designed my own uniforms, all the above. South Alabama, we became Nike because I was Nike at Prattville. She hands me a book. I said, this book is what a small high school would use. These were stock uniforms that a bad high school would wear. Not a good high school, but a bad high school. I said, I'm going to design my own uniforms. They just looked at me like I was insane. Sam Miller, who you might know that name, Miller was starting his own design company. Justin Kraft, who I had gotten to know, said, man, you need to meet Sam Miller. He's great at that kind of stuff. So Jacob Clark, my son, who said, man, we got to use that Dragon. That's how we go from literally voted the worst helmet and uniform in America to voted the best that year. So that was just one of the millions of things that happened along the way. But those are the things, the facilities. They were dressing under the Coliseum. Now, this is an FBS football team, and walking across campus to a practice. You can't make it up what they were doing.
Okay, so I want to go back to they want to have a conversation with you about the job.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got certain people in your life besides your wife. Like, who did you lean on to help make that decision of making the jump from Jacksonville to UAB?
I think that FCS time that I was in and knowing about FBS, I think state retirement was such a factor. I've got my dad sitting there in town who was always a great source of wisdom. But I think I just knew what I wanted to do, and I knew, okay, wait a second, now the contract becomes an issue later as far as the length. Little did I know, And I think Jack State, being who they were at the time, it was like kind of laughed at, UAB. We're better than UAB. FCS and FBS, that's a big difference, though. State retirement in the state that I'm from. And I thought, and I love the idea, of course, glutton for punishment, I guess, but love the idea of a reclamation project. Prattville was the same way. Prattville was, who is your lion? Well, we don't, which one do you want? Are you cardinal? Are you maroon? Are you red? Well, what do you want it to be? So I had been part of that. I'd been at South where we started the program from nothing. So I kind of liked that idea to a degree. I didn't really know what I was getting into, but it was kind of, just the few people in that core group.
But your love for Jacksonville State.
Yeah.
Going back there, you just come off a successful season. You could have been there. You're probably thinking to yourself, Coach, I don't know, you can tell me, you could be there for a long time.
Yeah.
Kind of name it.
Very happy.
Yeah. But how much hesitation was there though in ultimately knowing, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to hurt some people's feelings.
Yeah.
By making this jump, you don't want to ruin any kind of relationship or burn any bridges in a place that you hold so dear to your heart. Risk versus reward. How did you weigh that out?
Yeah, I mean, it was literally
because there was a lot of risk going to UAB.
Oh yeah, I think literally hadn't been a high school coach so long, and high school coaches didn't make a lot of money. I mean, it wasn't horrible, but it was nothing even like it is today. Jack State was not much of a pay raise from what I was making at South Alabama. So financially, it made so much sense. And then the fact that I'm in state, I know everybody. Where can you go but up at UAB?
Do something that's never been done.
Obviously, I didn't know the politics. If I'd have known the politics, I probably would have never done it. Just being honest, I would have never done it. But the leaving of Jack State was hard. I think if somebody at Jack State had been a little more forward thinking, but I mean, I think they were limited. You're an FCS program, you don't have the means. Well, we can give you a $15,000 raise or something, and I wasn't asking for a raise, but comparing what I could make at UAB and what I could make there wasn't even the same hemisphere. So the finances of a guy who'd been coaching for a number of years already, in-state retirement, that was all went into that decision. But hurting feelings, and I felt like I had us on the right track. I mean, we had everybody coming back, and we were getting some transfers that were just – go look at that team when I left.
Yeah.
So it was a tough decision, but it was when I just I can't turn this down.
Well, a tough decision that's really not that tough is deciding to go to Smart Bank. And they're a fine sponsor of the Bill Clark Show right here on Jocks 94.5.
Yeah, we appreciate Smart Bank. Those guys were really part of our show from the moment we kicked it off. And, they've got locations really everywhere. They started in Tennessee and now they're here in Alabama. Claim to fame, and I'm on the board for Smart Bank now. So I kind of know the inner workings is, just go in a place that knows who you are. You've got name recognition when you go in there. And like I said, small town banking with all the things you need to have a big bank.
Okay, so you accept a job at UAB. Brian Mackin is the athletics director. And you just told Landrum and talking about how pathetic the facilities were. I mean, and that's the best. I mean, and I'm kind of being
being nice. Yeah, you're being nice.
Yeah. You're playing at Legion Field.
Yeah.
I can't remember the date when they tore down the upper deck.
Yeah.
I guess was the upper deck still?
No,
it was still in play. Oh,
no,
it was gone.
Yeah.
It was gone. Okay, so I guess it's down to what 55,000 as opposed to the 80-something thousand it was. Beforehand. I imagine scheduling was difficult trying to get teams to come to play home games in Legion Field, along with the fact that you're trying to put the stamp on the program of Bill Clark and you just not having the materials to get it done.
Yeah. So let's go to the 14 season and we'll separate it out. Obviously, we're just talking 14 right now. So the schedule was done. Once again, you don't look at some of these things. People think, well, you weigh these out. Well, not necessarily. I should have looked at the schedule. I didn't know we had two SEC teams. And I give Mackin a hard time. I'm like, nobody. Are you trying to kill yourself? Two, of course, those are money games. So we had Mississippi State, maybe the best team they've had. They were number one for 7 weeks in 14. And then we got Arkansas with Belima, who's got a good team. Both of those teams in the same year. And they've won about 5 games in 3 years. So not really smart. That's the stuff. Now, my next contract said I will be involved in every schedule moving forward. So that's going to be some good things to talk about as we move forward. But no, you just took the hand that was dealt. And that was not a great hand that was dealt. Now, the good news then, the transfers didn't happen as easily. When you don't have immediate eligibility unless you were a senior, and that was just really starting where you've got your degree and you've got that ability to leave and be immediately eligible. That was just kind of kicking in. So basically, those guys were there unless they were willing to leave and go sit out or drop down to FCS. And that's what was happening with us at Jack State. What we were starting to get is guys that had been banged up, got knocked down the depth chart, and just like, hey, come in here and be the guy. So we were starting to get those guys at Jacksonville State. I'm telling you, that roster we had was loaded, and you saw them play against Auburn the next year and really should have beat them.
People that you trust, you respect, whether it's friends, whether it's fellow coaches, people in the business, when they got word that you had taken the UAB job, I'm sure a lot of them said, hey, yeah, Coach, you're going to be great there.
Yeah.
You're going to do unprecedented things. How many of those folks that you talked to just told you, I think you're crazy to do it?
I think it was more the fact that they had been so bad, and they did. Other than the facilities, UAB had some very solid teams.
Yeah.
They'd went to the bowl game one time, but they'd had some very solid teams. Now, as I tell people, I said this was before the FAU, FIU. They were one of those early startup programs that you didn't have as many people as you were dealing with, and they had some good teams in there. Really did. I think people saw that it could be something. And it had been so bad it had nowhere to go with up. Once again, I don't know that we all knew the politics. I just felt like, hey, let's go in here. And I still remember I've told this story so many times. I get an interview early, and you can go back and see it. And I said, we're going to build a new stadium, because I knew that was being talked about. Like somebody came to me and said, hey, we're going to go build a new stadium. I just said, hey, Birmingham's talked about it. We're going to build a new stadium. We're going to build a new facility. I'd already had that promised. Didn't know what it was going to be. And then let's be the best in sports medicine. Because I'm thinking, okay, what can we claim? Little did I know our sports medicine was horrible. The facility was, I ended up going in the back of the building and built, where the tractor shed was at.
Yeah.
At $1 million. So all those things that we kind of spoke into existence were really just a dream, But it was Birmingham. I know these people. I know there's really good players around here. And I'd seen the players they'd gotten before.
Yeah. Okay. So 2014, how much before that pinnacle season, because after the 2014 season is when the program was shut down.
Yeah.
When was there conversations, or when were you brought in the loop that there potentially was a problem in the program was looking straight in the face of being shut down?
Yeah. So this is because I hadn't had it asked in a while, but I think this is a really good question. So there was some rumors. I think anybody that was in this area had heard some rumors before about a possible shutdown, but there was nothing. I didn't ever see anything. And I asked that as I'm getting ready to sign this contract, which was a 3-year contract instead of a 5-year contract. But I said, okay, 3-year contract, still 3 years guaranteed. 3-year contract, nothing. I said, now, that had been brought up. I mentioned that. No, not going to happen. Okay, so there was never this could happen, this is a maybe, if you don't do good, none of that. Because I'd never done it, So we get a gift from Jimmy Lee from Buffalo Rock. He had promised some money. Brian Mackin says, hey, we got a gift. Jimmy Lee wants to give a gift to athletics. I believe he'd be willing to help you. The facilities were so bad, the grass practice fields, and they weren't the worst when you were on them, but any rain, like any grass field, and they had been worn, becomes a problem for ankle injuries and this. If we could just get a turf field, I'd build a turf field at Prattville. We did a turf field at South. We were going to do a new turf field at Jack State. I had a lot of ideas about that and had been part of that. I go to Jimmy Lee. He says, hey, I'm willing to give you of that $1 million toward this field. And you could have got a really, really good field at that time for about $750,000. I'm ecstatic. So in that spring, right after we'd finished, we'd only had 7 linemen, but we ended up getting through spring. Had all these injured guys. That'll be a great thing to talk about. I think we've discussed some of that before. But we get through spring. I get this gift, and I tell that story to the media. That's when, Birmingham News was a thing, and I'm so proud. I'm like, look, this is what we talked about. We're going to go build this practice field. Thank you, Jimmy Lee. I find out that people were upset that I have said we're going to have a practice field, and I hadn't gotten that okayed. Now, is that the craziest thing you've ever heard of? Why would you be upset that there's a practice field that's being given to you? Now, there was nothing about being shut down. There was none of that. It was just that I got ahead of the powers to be by saying there was going to be a practice field that was a free gift. So that was the first that was really what I'm understanding later really caused a lot of, the initial, hey, we got to get something done now. As we know, the program gets shut down. Behind the scenes, I think that probably caused got it really rolling that, hey, this something good may happen here. Crazy as that sounds.
So many follow-up questions that I'm not going to ask. But, so just without naming names or going too much into detail, why was that a problem for the folks?
Well, I think there's this thought of maybe it was going to be shut down. Now, as I come back in later years and find out if I don't come in, I think powers that be probably thought they had their opportunity. 5 wins in 3 years, apathy, nobody coming to the games before I get there. Now's the time to shut it down. And I'm hired. It kind of that ball gets moving before they can get that done. So now here I am. I'm in there, which should have at least said, let's at least see how it does. If you really had these thoughts, let's give this guy a chance. But I think that ball got moving as that came around, maybe because, hey, this thing could really turn out different or good or whatever those things were. So, and I know this will be some things we talk about, but through the course of the year, things started getting funky.
Well, that was my next question because, was it like mid-season? Was it towards the back end of the season? Because you end up 6-6 on the year. So when did it become, I guess, an issue during the season, if it did, in regards to maybe somebody whispering in your ear or maybe an official conversation that this may be it?
Yeah, I cannot remember. I really, there was whisperings that started going on during the middle of the year.
So middle of the season.
Yeah, there was just some weird vibes going on. If I said today, I don't think I could have said it, and as your memory gets, you get older, you're like, okay, did I remember that correctly? But I do remember I was brought in right after the game 10 saying this was probably going to happen.
Wow.
So I then let it known to the players and supporters, and
you were very transparent, with the players and everybody else.
Yeah, our players
this is what's happening.
Players, and of course, it starts getting around. I guess this secret could not be kept any longer. And I'm thinking truly, hey, we're going to save this thing. We've got a chance to be bowl eligible. We've had a good year. Our attendance was good. I just can't believe this could happen. We had good attendance in 14. We had the big Marshall game. Marshall came in there undefeated, should have beat them. They come back and beat us at the end of the game. Then we got to go down and play Southern Miss. And we have the big win. We get bowl eligible up until the next day. That Monday when they shut it down. I thought we were going to save it.
All right, so the season ends.
Yeah.
And so you get a phone call from Mackin, the president, who communicates with you that, hey, this is happening. We need to meet with the team. We need to make this a reality.
Yeah, on Monday, I cannot remember who called me on Monday. Said you need to have the team together. We need to talk to them on Monday. Now the word's starting to spread like wildfire. Through the campus that this is a possibility. I think Brian was asked to deliver the news. He's decided not to do it. He chooses to resign, and as opposed to saying it. And so I get the team into the team room, and Dr. Watts comes in with security to announce that our program's being shut down. And it just so happens one of my video guys at the back of the room happens to video it all. And at that time gets it on YouTube, and you can watch it today. So there it is. And, of course, there's a parking lot full of people as we come out. As I say, it's not, from all of us having gone through death, it was not a actual death, but it's the closest thing you could go through.
What were the reasons that were given to the players, to you?
Finances were the real, that we just couldn't afford it, which I didn't believe from, of course, that all ends up being found out to be not true. But that was the original, that it was a money issue and we weren't able to sustain. And I just knew that wasn't true.
Well, one thing's for sure, that video that you're referring to on YouTube, also obviously ESPN SportsCenter played that thing on a loop.
Yeah.
It became a very emotionally charged scene, a lot of frustration from the players towards Dr. Watts and just the whole situation. So it was one of those days. And listen, I was covering in the media, and it was one of shock. Because we saw firsthand, and I'm not saying it because I'm sitting here next to you, it was the fact that you had put the program on a playing field in a trajectory that could have had success moving forward. And I guess that's the part that was so shocking to the rest of us. One thing that is not shocking is that wonderful Tahoe that you drive in here from Donahue Chevrolet every single day when we do this show. He still doesn't wash it.
I did wash it yesterday. Y'all didn't see it. Maybe it got rained on today. So Donahue, and once again, I know these guys so well from having. Obviously, we talked about them on 3-Man Front all the time. I know they sponsored 3-Man Front and then us, but those guys do such a great job. They sponsored us the whole time at UAB, and just great service. You got all the selection. Obviously, we talk a lot about Chevy. Donahue Chevy, and I got a Chevy Tahoe, but just everything that's going on at Donahue, just check those guys out. They got all kind of deals all the time.
I do want to go back to what you were saying about not knowing the schedule, not knowing some of the inherent challenges that you were up against when you took the job. But thank the good Lord, because you think about it. You think about your trajectory professionally. Mm-hmm. Not that you had not done anything, but think about the story that was. Redemption, bringing the program back, the success, the championships, the players, all of that, the relationships. And now your name is still talked about. You're still on coaching hotboard lists around the country. And what you were able to do, just think about had you known some of those things and you decided not to take that job, I'm just throwing it out there. There's probably a good reason why those things either you yourself didn't go and find those things out or they were not revealed to you.
No, it's the good Lord. There's no doubt. I mean, and I say this to guys all the time. So, if you pray to have it put in front of you or taken away, that's just the prayer. Lord, if this is supposed to, I had prayed about the UAB job when I was at South. It was coming open. This was prior to Garrett McGee. I'm from that area. I know people. They know me. I've done my time in college and didn't get an interview. And so then the Jack State thing which was heaven sent. That's where I wanted to be, and still have guilt about leaving Jack State. Is because I love it, and they treated me so good, and we were winning, and I had the players back. But UAB was where I was supposed to be. That was meant to be. And I know we can even our next show we can take the next step, but just so there's things there, guys. When I tell you, we need to pull that video up. And maybe we can do that now as our technology's improving. But the video of these guys seeing those new uniforms and walking in that locker room, and it was nice. We had, me and you got pictures from me and you doing recruiting. We got brand new but they have tears coming down their
awesome.
face.
Yeah,
I get choked up. Over a uniform, and I've been with high school kids, so these are college, really, really grown kids, men crying over a uniform and a locker room. And that's why that hurts so much, because these guys, I still remember after we beat Troy, in the first game, they were just in disbelief. Mm-hmm. Coach, we did this. No
entitlement with those guys.
They was just so appreciative. It was like, you believed in us, we fought. I've told y'all the Legion Field story. There's so many, and I got great stories on so many teams, and y'all know that. Y'all, same thing, but it's, those stories there because they were so beat down.
Yeah.
Like I said, I couldn't get eye contact. I'm like, get your freaking eyes up. These are college athletes.
All right, Global Canine Protection Group. They're a brand new sponsor here on the Bill Clark Show presented by Buffalo Rock and Dr. Pepper. Global Canine Protection Group.
Yeah, this is a really cool story. These guys, I'm going to read you a little bit. Global Canine Protection Group provides security solutions through their amazing team of canine professionals. These are animals that are sniffing out. They can sniff out bombs and guns, and they're deployed all over the country as canines used to secure air cargo as well as major sporting events. They're with the San Francisco 49ers, a lot of NFL teams, Chicago Cubs, a lot of professional franchises. But best of all, this company uses our veterans that have served our country as their canine handlers. We are lucky to have them headquartered right here in Alabama.
How about that?
That's awesome.
Yeah. Good old Alabama company right there. Global Canine Protection Group. Welcome to the Bill Clark Show family. All right. That was a quick 30 minutes. Just a fascinating look back at Bill Clark going from Jacksonville State to UAB. Next week on the show, we're going to talk about the resurrection. We're going to talk about the Phoenix coming out of the flames. We're going to talk about how UAB was able to come back thanks to this man sitting to my left. From Molly Robinson, Landrum Roberts, I'm Pat Smith, Coach Bill Clark. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next week on the Coach Bill Clark Show presented by Dr. Pepper.
This has been the Bill Clark Show, presented by Dr. Pepper.